Bystial and Labrynth. This is round 2. Table B? Yeah, table B. Herman.
Right, it sounds like Herman won the die roll, or in some
won the
capacity
die
is
roll.
able to go first.
So I'm assuming he's
Looks
opting
like his
to go
hand
first.
has a large suite of trap cards, which is what you're going to
A
anticipate.
lot of trap cards. So
he starts with Ariana, so that's going to
normal's
get a
Ariana.
Labrynth card.
I honestly have
This
no
is
clue
easily,
what these do.
if you get to go first, an effect that you absolutely want. Right, when you have to worry about going
that
second,
adds
it's
a
somewhat more
Labrynth
difficult
card. It
to
looks like
play
it
a monster
resolves,
that's effect
and he
is
adds
basically
big
just reliant
welcome
on
Labrynth,
using your
so
normal
that lets
summon,
him
but
grab
going
one from
first
deck.
uninterrupted,
That would be my
can
exact
absolutely
same reaction. I have no clue what these fucking cards do.
Labrynth decks don't
Every
typically
time I
rely
play
on
against
too
this
many
deck, I just
normal
forget what it
cards
does, and I
frequently
just fucking
lean
put it
on
in.
Lady Labrynth
You know, I had to
and
read them every
a
time.
high suite of trap cards.
But it looks like he, won his
so
last round, so that's good.
Ariana is obviously one of the strongest.
He's gonna prosperity. I'm assuming for
I believe
6.
he searched Big Welcome Labrynth. That is what I believe he searched there, which is the new ultra rare from Photon Hypernova.
Yeah. Well, he does play
even
Compulse.
adds another layer
And
of
commentators are
interaction to
just
this
talking
Labrynth
about that. He
strategy.
mains
And
evenly.
now with Prod of
Obviously,
Prosperity,
trap
this
tricks,
deck
and he
can freely
plays
ban this 6
Judgment
cards
as
from the extra
well.
deck with absolutely no
Another
issue
big welcome
whatsoever, which
Labrynth.
will
I'm
enable him
assuming
to
he's
dig
grabbing
6 cards
Compulse
deeper and kind of craft together the
it's
best
not big welcome
combination
Labrynth.
of
Okay.
trap card that he wants to
Compulse
stick
or
on the opening
Judgment?
turn.
Yeah,
I
so
would
yeah,
assume.
he does have a lot of options here.
They're all really good options, though.
That Solemn Judgment is a powerful play because anything Nigel may do, he now has a way to stop.
Yeah, he has a way to stop any spell, trap, or summon, basically.
He might have considered some of the other options, but it looks like he has
Okay.
plenty of trap
Set
cards,
4.
and one that stops anything is
What did
going
he
to be a
grab?
great addition to it.
You know, it's interesting that he's valuing Solemn Judgment in Game 1. You know, you typically don't have to worry about spell and trap card removal in Game 1.
I think.
And if you had
I
some
still
of those
think it was the
continuous
right
trap
move,
cards
though.
that this deck does still like to play, even though it doesn't necessarily synergize as well with the strategy, having a card like Solemn Judgment is obviously that insurance policy. But here we get to see Nigel normal summon Aliber, opening up his first play with sort of the most ideal start from the Despia strategy.
Yeah. Does he let it resolve? We don't really know what he has set besides, big welcome Labrynth and Judgment.
It looks like he does not, unfortunately for him. Nor was Skillgrade in the top 6 cards, so Nigel will search his deck, and it looks like he's getting Branded Lost.
That is, in fact, a copy of Branded Lost. So
that's Brandon Lost on resolution.
Waste no time. When Lost is added to his hand, he uses
Big welcome Labrynth.
I think we're probably going to see Lady Labrynth summon.
Yeah, I think more often than not,
Lady
that would be
Labrynth.
the
Yeah.
And then, concluding the resolution of the effect, he does return Ariana to his hand, it looks like.
Which is one of the
That's
interactions that you don't
good.
often see
lets
because this deck usually only has maybe one copy of Ariana, but being able to bounce it to your hand with Big Welcome Labrynth is actually a pretty awesome synergy because now,
only one
theoretically, you'll be able to do that again on the next turn.
To be honest. Considering it searches like any, I'm assuming trap, or if not any.
What is interesting here is he actually went with Lovely Labrynth, but this deck is typically only going to play maybe a single copy of. And because a normal trap was activated that involves a monster leaving the field, which in this case was actually the Ariana, he's able to destroy a card.
That makes sense here because he had the Ariana.
God, that's got to be terrifying though on his end. He's playing Bystial branded.
So the Lovely Labrynth will stick around.
Looks like he's actually going after the hand, which is a pretty interesting effect, right? He's probably afraid that Nigel actually just already has Branded Fusion, and maybe he's trying to snipe a single copy. That is not a card you typically want to hit, though. It looks like a copy of Branded Retribution, which doesn't have an effect immediately, but over the course of the turn, if additional Branded cards get to the graveyard, he'll be able to banish it to add it to his hand.
He's going to Trap Trick. So this limits him to one trap card for the rest of the turn.
Will actually lock him into only using one more trap card this turn.
I think I know which one he's probably going to go for, though. Ooh, this is interesting. A main deck copy of Enemy Controller.
And Nigel will chain it.
I do think Enemy Controller is super strong right now. So I think that was a really solid call. Okay, so he takes Miss Labrynth. Is he maining D-Barrier? Maybe that's what it is. I think maining D-Barrier is another big one that would be really good. And almost auto-wins.
This is an interesting point here. You have to consider the fact that you're playing in a 3v3. If any of the other players on Nigel's team are playing Branded, there's a possibility that their deck lists are very similar. That's very common for an entire team to come to a conclusion. So Herman here is actually just telling the rest of his teammates that they're main decking Enemy Controller, which is a bit of an abnormal card in the main deck of strategies like this did, Branded. And as a result, that information is now shared universally throughout his entire team in case, perhaps they find a game state where Enemy Controller could be potentially game-breaking.
That's interesting because he is still speculating.
He plays D-Barrier. See, that's what I'm saying.
Or all teammates are using similar lists.
I can't believe this.
And you think that's the same?
Now he has to wait for him to attempt
free information. It doesn't hurt to know that. It should just be in the back of your
Like,
mind, especially if
that
the
change of
opponent may
Hardened hand? It
present
looks
the
like it.
possibility of it being there. As I alluded to earlier, though, with the trap trick, there is one card that has especially been a powerhouse against the
card's
branded
nasty.
strategy. If your entire
Trap
deck
trick
is going
getting
to
you to
revolve around
debarrier is
fusion
so
summoning, the
dumb.
last thing you want to see
Like,
is a dimension
it's such a
barrier, which
free
has
fucking
unfortunately
thing.
been activated,
Branded,
or at least been set
but,
by
like,
Herman. And
I
now with
forgot
one
what the
trap
hell it
card
was.
that he gets to activate again this turn, there's a pretty reasonable chance that it's actually just going to be dimension barrier.
For sure, and like you said before, since Nigel did
he
search his
chains
deck
it.
for a card other than Branded Fusion, there's a
I
good
hate
chance
saying
that he
thank
has
God
it,
I have Brandon
and
in red.
he is
Yep,
going
I
to
knew he
activate
had
it.
Brandon in red.
Herman will chain the Dimensional Barrier, which will stop Fusion Summon, since Branded Loss will only stop
It
prevent
is going to
cards that
negate the effect of whatever he
activations.
summons, which is cool.
But
he's
Nigel
going to take a
will
butt ton of
chain
damage.
Branded in red, which could permit him to Fusion Summon as Chain Link 3, so that he can resolve that Fusion Summon before the Dimensional Barrier can resolve.
So what will happen here is he'll be able to search off the Despia Tragedy that was banished from his hand, and then the Alibur went to his hand, so he'll be able to now use Alibur on the following turn to potentially
he'll be able to
search
grab Branded Fusion or
any of
Branded
the other
in
branded
red
cards that he might
from
want.
his grave. So probably
obviously
he'll
the
end up
Dimensional
grabbing
Barrier on the
Branded
side
in
of
red.
Herman has put a dent into things, but he actually lost his lovely Labrynth over the course of this turn, and he does now still have to deal with Despia Quartless, which is a pretty reasonable monster, all things considered.
Yeah, that Cordless is not a
Obviously,
card
its effect won't be
to
able to
just
activate, but it
disregard.
doesn't really have an effect that typically would matter under this condition, this particular game state.
But he just went
Midas
like
does
plus
have
2 with
the
it.
ability to reduce the attack points of non-fusion monsters to 0. We'll see how relevant that is when the Labyrinth deck uses so many removal effects.
I mean, that's not bad. So he gets to summon it from
Yeah, I
hand.
can imagine that card just
He's,
getting
I
sent
guess
back
he's
with
just pushing
something
for
like
damage.
compulsory
Because against this like
evacuation
trap
device.
deck, you know, a lot of the, that's how you end up
Yeah, that
beating
probably
them
be
a lot of the time is you're
pretty
pushing for
easy for
damage.
Herman to deal with.
Because they can't really do much about it.
Not this turn, of course, since he can't play any more trap cards.
I mean, that's not a problem. Yeah, so he takes the damage from Quadless.
So Paritis will attack directly.
So it's putting Mr. Herman.
It would be interesting, though. Quartless is actually a particularly
he's like
useful
26
card
something?
against strategies that rely on these trap cards, because if the card actually leaves the field by an opponent's card effect, he would be able to special summon. I think actually returning to the extra deck may not trigger that effect. I guess it kind of might be a ruling question at that point.
Yep.
We'll see if that ends up playing out.
Okay.
So Alibur and Adlibitum in hand.
Okay.
Also, we could talk all day about the cards that may answer it. If Herman doesn't draw it,
He drew
that
it off
Paritis is
of
a problem.
that? That's crazy.
So we'll see.
And she's
So
back.
Ariana's back, unsurprisingly, since it was returned to his hand on the last turn with the effect of Big Welcome Labyrinth.
What does he have? No, okay, that's what I thought.
Nigel has a great setup here with that Brandon in red set that he was able to set with Brandon Retribution. If Herman didn't hit the Brandon Retribution that previous
Starlight?
turn,
Looks
the
Starlight.
makeup of
Looks
this turn will
pretty.
look a lot different. A single copy of Branded in red, especially with Branded lost on the field, can really snowball quite a lot of card advantage. So it'll be really interesting to see how Herman tries to navigate this. It looks like here he just tutored out or searched out a copy of Lady Labyrinth from his deck with his Ariana.
Yeah, so here's the Lady Labyrinth. Now if he can just use a trap card, or if his opponent uses a trap card, he can, or a Labyrinth card, he can special summon it. He used the Ariana's effect already, so here comes the Lady Labyrinth.
Yeah, it's really awesome, that interaction where it just inherently actually satisfies the effect of there needing to be a Labyrinth
That's
activated
so dumb.
previous in the turn. So just by searching out a copy of Lady Labyrinth, you can put pretty reasonable amount of attack points on the field. But it does look like Nigel is going to respond with Branded in red. It'll be interesting to see if Herman uses...
He chains.
Ooh, this is a really awesome card.
Yeah, so this lets him target a card on the opponent's field and grave and basically swap them.
Yeah, so this is really going to stymie his Branded in red.
Okay. I mean, okay.
It's amazing how easy Lady Labyrinth is to summon.
So it looks like he's putting Branded Lost into the graveyard and then forcing his opponent to set the Fallen of Albaz. And then as a result, Branded in red cannot resolve. So it basically, did something similar to something what like a DD Crow might do, where you actually remove the target from the graveyard and therefore the card
That's
cannot
so
resolve.
good.
And as a result, now the Branded Lost is actually just in the graveyard.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Lady Labyrinth, I believe, is 3,000 attack, 2,900 defense. And can't be targeted or destroyed while there's those cards set in the back row. So it can be tough to deal with.
Yeah, that's actually pretty. That's a little rough. You got 4 cards in hand.
And a lot
now.
of, quite frankly, Branded
Normal,
monster removal.
Alibur?
Not all of it. Mirror Jade is an exception, but cards like Gardening Chimera are cards that target, and then obviously that would just destroy it anyway. We do see here, probably one of Herman's most powerful Game 1 cards, Skill Drain.
Yes, so
Yeah.
it will negate the effect of Aluber. It also will turn off the effect of his lovely Labrynth.
I mean, but does that matter?
Sorry, Lady Labrynth. Which is a trade-off that he's more than happy to make.
Well, yeah, now he's just big monster beatdown.
So he is here going to chain Quartless's effect and at least reduce the monsters on the field, at least their attack points to 0, which will allow him to attack for the maximum amount of damage over Ariana.
He's at 45.
Why not? If he
Jesus
doesn't do it in
Christ.
chain to the skill drain, it won't be able to resolve later in the turn.
So, took 25 from the attack and paid a K for the skill drain, which is, God, that's
Yeah,
still
so
a
this will
lot,
deal
though.
2,500 points of damage,
Now he's at
attacking over a monster
2K?
that has, of course,
Ugh,
0 attack.
yikes.
And when you know you're playing cards like Skill Drain and Solemn Judgment, that amount of damage can add up, especially because on the previous turn, Quartless actually was able just to attack directly. So Herman's already taken a pretty big chunk of life.
I think from here it just turns to a beatdown.
Oh, and he paid 1,000 for skill drain, so he's down to his last 2,000 life points. And with Quirites on the field, he can make any attack position, all of the attack position monsters that Herman is able to summon 0. So
No.
if he can make a connection, there's a problem.
He'll have to get rid of the skill drain, but yeah, I mean, that is absolutely just instantly game if he ever gets rid of the skill drain.
Commentary's like,
Can't get
yeah.
rid of skill drain, he's in trouble
you know.
anyway, in all likelihood.
He's
also has to
like,
deal with the
yeah,
Solemn
of course he can't attack because of that.
That's right.
And
I forgot
then
he
the
took
other
that
guy's
on his
like,
very first turn.
you know the
Herman has
skill
also
drain,
been pretty
right?
disciplined in not
Did you
using
forget?
Solemn Judgment. You know, one of the things that some players with these type of trap-heavy strategies might do, particularly when they're inexperienced with the strategies, maybe use Solemn Judgment a little bit too early.
This is a
You know, the
deck
beauty of Solemn
that
Judgment
is
is the longer that you
very
hold on to it, the
difficult
better
to
it
pilot
typically
against,
becomes.
especially because a lot of
Yes.
people are so ignorant to
Solemn
it.
Judgment is a tough card to use correctly because, like you said, the longer you hold it, the better it becomes. Usually you're paying less life points and you're hitting more critical cards. But at the same time, sometimes plays snowball into stronger plays from just a single card.
Yeah,
And if you
he's
can
sitting
cut
there with
that
2K,
card
but
off,
it's...
it pretty much puts a stop to what
Oh,
your opponent
actually,
can
I
do.
mean,
So it's
if
really
he
hard
plays
to make
Lynx,
that
he can
calculation
get through it. It
sometimes.
doesn't really matter then, because he
In
can
terms of
Jewess
what
Worm.
Nigel will probably try to do to prolong the game, he probably will try to summon his Bystial Rebellion in defense mode in some capacity.
Yeah.
If he's able to get that out of the graveyard. That's
Do we
probably
not
one
just...
of
Oh,
his
no,
best
I don't
avenues
think he
'cause the
searched Jewess Worm,
3000
did he?
Defense will line up pretty well against
But
the 3000
Jewess
attack
Worm is
of
the
Lady
out.
Labrynth. Well, he's asking here whether or not he's allowed to concede, which is also an option too.
What?
Seeing as how if you don't have any removal for a card
Huh.
like Skill Drain, that card can very easily just snowball in the sense
Damn,
that
see, that's what I'm
you're sitting
talking
there
about.
not
If you
doing
can't
much and your
pilot
opponent
against
is able
this,
to basically continually amass trap cards, which over the long run is basically
You know, it's one of
impossible to
those
come
things
back
where
from.
it's just super rough.
Heavy deck to go
Yeah, I
first. There is
figured he would
no
go
deck
first. It
inherent
looks like
risk.
he has
Most of the Labrynth
Ash.
strategies I've seen incorporate main deck copies
Ash,
evenly
he opened
matched
Brain
as
Infusion.
a
What a
normal
fucking
trap
god.
card that can sometimes
I figure
alleviate
I have
issues of
seen this
going
Herman guy
second, so
before. I
it'll
heard
be
he was
interesting to
at
see how Nigel
the other
crafts his
YCS,
field
and he
with
got top
potentially a
cut
card
with
like Mini
Labrynth,
Match
so
in
he
the
knows
back
his
of
way
mind, but
around
he
the
does
deck.
open probably the best singleton card, right? If the other 4 remaining cards in your hand aren't that great, if one of them is branded,
has Ash,
you
which
usually
is
feel
crazy.
pretty good. I mean, it looks like he said
Like,
Fallen
he-
Valdez and Bystial
It doesn't
Rebellion
do
to the
much
graveyard,
in this
allowing
matchup,
him
but
to
he
summon
does
one of
keep
the
because
older Fallen
hitting
Valdez
big
fusion
welcome
monsters
Labrynth
out beyond
and
the Shrouded
Ari is
Dragon.
really good.
Yeah, I'm sure Nigel is actually very confident that Herman has evenly matched in his deck for Game 2 because he saw it actually in Game 1 with Pot.
So he's fusing from hand.
Prosperity.
Okay,
Absolutely.
that's fair.
And
He
it's even
opened
stronger
one
knowing
Fallen
you're
of
going
Albus
second,
too. That's
or
super
expecting to go
unfortunate.
second.
We see here an awesome interaction where he actually banishes the Mercurier from his hand in order to use Albion's
Yes,
effect
he
to
gets
summon
yeah,
Lubellion.
that's pretty good.
And now he's discarding, looks like a copy of Branded Opening to give him some inherent protection, maybe marginal against this particular strategy, but some inherent protection. But he's also now able to resolve Mercurier.
To summon Lubellion.
Here's Herman also giving insight into the brand, and he's even joking. He's looking out for his teammates, giving them insight into potentially what might be a consistent Bystial branded deck list across the entirety of their team.
So it looks like his other teammate Luca got game 1 too. I mean, good for
So it
them.
looks like his Lubellion
Robert
is
and
going to be traded
Anderson
into
sub
a
and
defense
finish their
position
matchup.
copy of
Well, finish for
Mirajade
game
in
1.
the extra monster
But it
zone,
looks
and he
like
has
Red Team is doing
another
good.
copy
Do your
of
thing, Blue
Albion
Master.
in his
Is
hand,
that
which
the
will allow
team
him
name?
to send a
Canadian
branded card
Lizards isn't
from his
looking
deck
so
to the
hot right
graveyard,
now.
putting it at the bottom and then getting a draw.
It won
Are you aware
last
of any
time, so I'm kinda
strategic
surprised.
advantage to putting in the extra monster zone as opposed to a main monster zone?
This strategy actually sometimes wants to have that many monsters on the field, and in addition to that, your deck doesn't play any link monsters. It also, against some strategies, this is a very fringe case, but there have been some strategies before where players
sends
practice
he's gonna
their
send
sort of
Fallen
solitaire
Valdez,
combos, where they're
and either
practicing basically
some-
just to learn
yeah,
the play
he's
as
gonna
opposed to
probably put it
necessarily
back to
playing
the
against another
bottom and draw a
person.
card.
Where if the deck is a really link-centric deck like Dragon Link, it can actually disrupt where they have comboed and sort of where they've learned to play the combo,
Yeah.
where most of the combos can actually be
Bet he
used
draws an
done
insane
with the other
card,
extra
too.
monster
Let's
zone, but
see.
if you block it with a card like Mirajade, it might
can't
put
see
them
it.
into a weird position if they haven't
But
practiced.
yeah, Ash.
That's not going to
So
really
he
be
has
the case with
Ash,
Labrynth, but
that,
it is a
Mirajade.
possibility in some matchups against something like
Is
Dragon
he gonna
Link.
keep going? He is. Wow, that's
What we
fucking.
see here, the
I
Albion
can't
being sent to the
believe
graveyard
that.
to summon Bystial Lubellion, which
I
then
bet he
allows
drew
him
it too.
to set a Bystial Beast and basically place it directly onto the field. And then he follows that up with a normal summon of Labrynth, which is an incredible opening. Now that we're starting to see the entirety of his hand, Nigel really has put together a great combination.
Yeah, he's Branded him
of
red.
Branded
So he's
and
Branded him
Bystial
red,
and
Mirror
Vespier
Jade, the
cards.
trap.
And he's getting the Branded
What
in
else
red,
does he
which
have?
will allow
Ash.
him to fusion
This
summon
is
on
genuinely
Herman's turn.
terrifying. But the other guy mained evenly, which is another
I will
thing you
say,
have to
based
pay
on this
attention
current
to.
field,
So he
there is
probably
a
kept
degree of
evenly in.
weakness to
Oh, it looks like their other guy in
I
table
was
C.
just gonna say,
He
evenly
won
matched
too.
will just tear him apart. Unless he has...
Ooh.
the
Oh,
trap
the
card.
counter trap.
Is that Branded Retribution, which can negate evenly matched?
Yeah.
that is in fact a
It's okay,
copy
he has
of
double evenly.
Branded Retribution.
Now he'll keep Mirror Jade, I'm assuming?
That was the card that he unfortunately discarded out of the hand the previous game. But yes, when a spell,
he has
trap,
evenly in
or
hand. I'm
monster
pretty
effect
sure I
is
just saw
activated,
it.
that includes
But
the
does he have
effect that
another one?
special summons out. This is not one that would
I
actually
think he's looking
work
for
under this
evenly.
condition.
You,
Oh, no, it's only...
it's
you're
terrifying
right,
because
it would
you
to
have to
special
let
summon
this
monsters,
resolve
so
and just
you
negate
can't
the
take
evening.
it.
Oh yeah,
It's not
so
evenly
he's just gonna
matched.
ash it. You can't let that continue.
And that's it. Herman's conceding.
Yeah, there's not much you can do versus that.
Well,
that
that
board
was-
was
There's
disgusting.
more insight from Herman to the rest of the teammates about other cards in their deck.
Okay, yeah, game 3,
wouldn't
and I
be
agree. I
shocked if he
think I'm
decides
pretty
to go
sure he's
second, so I
going
imagine
first.
he's gonna be
He's
going
playing a
first.
trap deck.
If
Looks
you're
like it's
Herman, you're really
1-1-1
hoping to
across
see a
the
nice
board,
combination
except
here of
for
maybe one of the
Nigel.
pot
Looks like
cards, maybe
Nigel
Pot
over
of
there is the
Duality,
only
Pot of
person who got a win
Prosperity.
so
He's
far on
running
his
them.
team.
Seeing a card like Dimension Barrier
This
or
game
Trap
3
Trick,
might
which
be
we both
rough.
saw in game 1,
Depending
would be a really
on
critical
what
piece
he
because if
opens,
you
he
can incorporate both Trap
needs to
Trick
get
and or
D-Barrier.
Dimensional Barrier
Okay,
with
so
the
he has
ability to put
Judgment,
Lady Labrynth
Prosperity,
on the field,
open.
I mean, really, that
I
would be
think
the
Lady
perfect
Labrynth, Ariana.
Duality and Prosperity
don't
are
know
nice,
the other
but it's better
card.
to just draw exactly what you need.
Yeah,
Without having
this
to
deck
dig
doesn't
through.
exactly need.
I will say that there are some
Check.
strategies though where knowing the bottom 5 cards of your deck is actually of some degree of value.
I don't think this
God,
is
this
one
guy
of them,
has had
This is
prosperity
probably
like
not,
every fucking time.
But in formats prior, some of the Mystic
Trap tricks,
Mind burn decks
probably.
actually couldn't win. If
Oh,
both copies
Eradicator.
of
That's
Cauldron of
so
Yellow were in the bottom 5.
nasty.
Ooh.
What?
Prosperity reveals they're an Eradicator virus, and he also has, I believe that's a Trap Trick at the bottom of that pile, so which is essentially a wild card for a trap card.
So this will tell us a lot about his hand. The fact that he's picking Duality tells me he already either has Dimension Barrier or Trap Deck in his hand, because that card just does so well locking out fusion monsters. He might not necessarily have access to one of the Welcome Labrynth cards, and that might be what he's digging for. So that's not it.
Skill
That's not
Drain's
it.
another-
And, okay, he's just going to take the D-Barrier.
I guess that's what he was digging.
Here it is, Judgment. So board wipes aren't exactly
Put
relevant
away
to
the
him
Skill
right now.
Drain and the Solemn Judgment. Both
The
of
problem
which
is
would've been
he
very
needs, like, a
strong
lot
He
to
will
on
need to
sets.
shuffle his deck after the activation of a Pot of Duality.
Yeah. He does need
And
to
look
shuffle
at
his
this.
deck.
He has here a
Yeah, they heard
Lord
it.
of the
Okay.
Heavenly Prison. Oh, now he's shuffling his deck, which is good. After Pot of Prosperity, your instinct might be to shuffle. That's not the case, but Pot of Duality, you absolutely do need to shuffle. Kind of going back to one of the more retro pot cards.
So revealing the Lord of the Heavenly
Duality
Prison now
is such a
makes
good
it so
card,
that he's
too.
invulnerable to Lightning Storm.
Not evenly matched if that is in Nigel's deck list, but we'll see.
Let's see how he deals it. He has set
Right to
3.
battle
Because
phase.
D-Barrier already
That
ends
is
this
probably the
turn.
last thing that Herman wants to hear.
I mean, he's going to banish one card he didn't want him to banish. Does it really fucking matter?
He's doing it now.
Why is he doing it
Why
now?
wouldn't he just chain that to an evenly matched if there is in fact an evenly?
Yeah.
There's the possibility here. Okay, he's just going to let it banish. Okay.
So he probably
Well,
banished
he
the
wants to do it
Judgment?
here so that if you don't and wait when you activate the D-Barrier, it's
I think he has
Oh, he wants
Duster
it
in
in his
hand? Yeah, he
graveyard.
has Duster in hand. I'm pretty sure. Branded in red, Duster. Oh,
yeah. Lady Labrynth lets you.
Big
Yeah,
welcome.
I think he wants it
trap
in his
tricks?
graveyard to return.
Yeah.
It sort of depends on
He's
his
probably
entire
gonna set
strategy.
maybe
There are
Big
cards
Welcome
in those
Labrynth?
Labrynths, right, to let you return it from the graveyard.
I'm
Right.
assuming Big Welcome Labyrinth.
It was a
okay,
dangerous
Big
play, though,
Welcome
because
Labyrinth.
if Nigel did not have the evenly matched and wasn't going to fusion summon, then he would have just wasted the
Yeah, he
dimensional
gets
barrier,
so
but I
much
guess he was
value
pretty
off that.
confident.
And he can set another D-Barrier, too, I
So he
believe.
kept the trap trick, activated
Hope
it.
he's just setting more on that.
It looks
Okay.
like a Welcome Labrynth, I believe. And now he gets to activate that. Looks like Lady Labrynth, which would make a lot
Holy
of sense.
fuck.
You know, this really
I
is
think he's
just about
dead.
all that he would want on that opening turn.
Yeah, not bad.
D-Barrier
Not a
wasn't
bad
FTK.
play
There's
for
no
the
red
evenly
reboot
matched.
anymore. So you can't
Yeah,
do
right.
anything. You play Night Beam.
He has protected against Lightning Storm with Heavenly, and now he has 2 big monsters, and this is actually enough
is that
damage to
lethal?
win the game if this goes through.
Yes.
Yeah. Looks like Labyrinth moving in. He plays
Did he
Lord
get that
of-
Welcome Labyrinth with the Heavenly?
He got it with the Trap Trick during the end. I think it was the...
Yeah.
It may have been the Trap Trick. One of the 2 ways. He had multiple ways of searching out. It actually, yeah, it looks like in any capacity,
I
the
mean, yeah.
Labyrinth card will allow him
Labyrinth
to summon
takes
an
round
additional
2.